The Oklahoma Visual Arts Coalition created Momentum as a place for emerging young artists to begin their careers. It's a launching pad for them. It's also a place for audiences to come and experience what young artists in Oklahoma are making. It's really fresh, it's really sometimes experimental. They take a lot of risks in their work. So it's always a place for people to come and see something that they may not see in any other art exhibition in Oklahoma. Part of Momentum is the Spotlight program, where 3 young artists are selected. They each get a stipend of $2,000 and several months of guidance from our guest curators. For Momentum Tulsa this year, our curators are Emily Kern and Krystle Brewer, who's serving as the emerging curator, and they've been working with our 3 artists to develop these new bodies of work for the show, which will open at Living Arts in Tulsa. The spotlight artists for Momentum Tulsa this year are Stuart Whitis, who is from Norman, Molly Youngblood, also from Norman, and Leigh Martin of Oklahoma City.
My name is Leigh Martin, and I am a nature enthusiast and perpetual observer of the natural world. And my educational background is in forestry. I've always been really intrigued by the cycles in forest ecology and tree biology, and just find it really remarkable how all of these components in the natural world work together and rely on one another. My project is called saprobia, which is a play on the word saprobe. A saprobic organism is an agent such as fungi or bacteria that breaks down organic matter that is dead into mineral compounds that are absorbed by plants and are used for their necessary processes for growth and reproduction. And as these plants grow and mature, they eventually will die and drop their debris onto the forest floor, where they are broken down once again by these organisms. My project will communicate this idea through the construction of forms of fungi, each representing a certain species of tree. So each one will be comprised of components from that tree, and the form will kind of represent the mineral cycling of elements in a forest ecosystem. Some of them are dyed using pigment from the species of tree. I've incorporated leaves and bark and wood tissue into some of them. So these forms will be placed in a realistic setting of an installation on the floor, where people can come up and look at them and kind of see the different details. I'll also be displaying photographs from my process and some other elements, such as the dye jars that I use to dye the yarn with, and some of the other pieces that are kind of going into it. I'm really looking forward to seeing people interacting with my installation and just getting down and taking a closer look at it, and really, I guess, making the connect between these forms and the processes that occur in nature and the complexities of it. This has been a really great experience, just to have some guidance from professional artists in such a supportive environment. It's really kind of brought me out of my comfort zone a little bit, but it's really helped me, I think, to find ways to engage my audience more and create a better experience where people can interact with my art and take something away from it. So I think that's been the biggest benefit to me. It's also been a great honor to have this kind of exposure to my work, and also just to get a greater perspective of the exhibition process from the beginning of starting a body of work and following through to fulfillment.
My name is Stuart Whitis. I'm an artist living in Norman, Oklahoma. And I got my BFA in studio art from the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor in Belton, Texas. For a couple years, I pursued a career in the software industry in Austin, Texas, before, a few years of soul searching, decided to get my MFA in painting from the University of Oklahoma. Early in the year, I had been basically obsessed with the idea of information overload and how to represent that in a visual context. So, any information I came into contact with, any visual data, I would just cram it together in the foreground, background, just try and push it together to try and convolute the whole meaning of the message. And after a while, I decided to actually think about the application of paint itself as a method of information overload as to the subject matter, or as opposed to the subject matter, I should say. So I started painting all these little interweaving patterns that basically kind of developed an image on the whole. Just little recursive patterns that were from small to large that just repeated themselves, patterns I would notice in my subconscious. They just kind of came together to create a whole image. So at the same time, I was thinking about the notion of shared reality and how our skills of perception are all that we can ever really infer about the universe or even each other. So it kind of led me down the rabbit hole of the history of visual representation in art and technology. Most specifically, I was interested in the rise of photography and how it gave, a boost to impressionism, just because photography itself kind of seemed to, or at least the impression was that it devalued the artist's skill in reproducing reality. And so it also led me to rediscover the work of William Adolphe Brewer, whose French I'm sure I'm mispronouncing. But at the time, he was the epitome of the state-of-the-art in visual representation. Brewer became the jumping off point for my Momentum project. The title of the project itself is Vagua bis Biel, which is actually just a nonsensical pairing of two titles between two of his works. So I had two source images I was using. Basically, I pulled all the metadata and the character encoding. Like when you open an image file in a text editor, you have all the characters that are basically, it's all the data that makes up the image, but in text form. So I would take all that data, and you can edit it. You can take it in text editor, you can delete it, you can delete lines, you can put them back in, you can overlay them over the image. You can even take the characters and put them into sound editors and basically just confound the whole thing. So the goal was to take all the information I could get from those two source images and use them to distort themselves, basically. For, again, I guess another layer of recursion. I owe a deep-seated gratitude towards Momentum for just giving me the opportunity to paint this large. The whole idea in the first place, just based on the small recursive patterns, was that they would fill up the viewer's visual field. And up to this point, I could only do like 4 foot by 6 foot paintings. And the maximum I can do in the garage is right now about 4 foot by 8. But with the time, the financial resources, I was finally able to go large scale and get a large field of view. So I could paint 8 feet by 12 feet. It's hard painting that large, but by breaking up into panels and just the financial contribution, it's finally become a reality, and I couldn't be happier.
My name's Molly Youngblood. I'm from Norman, Oklahoma. I just graduated from the University of Oklahoma with a bachelor's in media arts. My focus was in video, but I've found performance art and photography really interest me as well. And so with this project, I'm actually combining all three. My project is called Semblance of Society. It's a series of performances and documentation through video and photography about me placing myself into different subcultures of Oklahoma to kind of witness firsthand their complexities and how they change or are different from basically societal stereotypes and what people kind of conceive of these certain subcultures of Oklahoma. Overall, all the interactions I've had, going in at first, I've been pretty scared to kind of see their reaction to my persona, the exaggeration, how are they going to take me, how is this going to influence our interaction. But overall, for the most part, people are really excited to share what makes them unique and individual and kind of part of a subculture. And, all together, all the subcultures kind of make up one larger community, and that's kind of what I'm aiming at with this project, focusing on the larger community that we're all kind of part of. There's been a lot of research I've had to do for each one. I've gone and kind of interviewed certain people, people I'm comfortable around and who are willing to kind of share their individual lifestyle with me, and first get comfortable with interviews, maybe experiences. If I'm gonna go hunting, I've never shot a gun before, so going to the gun range to kind of prepare for that, or talking to a friend who kind of prepares me for a certain kind of belief that she believes in before I go and actually check out the full ritual and everything. As a final product, my project will feature 5 large 3 by 5 feet photographs of me and these different personas I've created based on these stereotypes of subcultures, and a documentary sort of video that kind of corrects all the misnomers and misunderstandings of everyone with these subcultures. This whole idea was pretty large, and without any kind of filter, the curators definitely kind of helped me basically distill the project in a way that's going to make the most sense cohesively in the gallery. And with the time and everything that I've had, all the resources through OVAC and Momentum, I feel like this is going to be one of the more cohesive and fullest bodies of work that I've produced to this date.
The Momentum Spotlight projects are one part of a bigger exhibition that includes dozens of young Oklahoma artists from around the state. They are working in a variety of media. It includes things like painting and sculpture and photography, but also new media and performance, film and video. And it's presented in a very festive and fun atmosphere with live music and a lot of interactive components where the audience will be invited to literally participate in the art.